Hi, my name is Joe Curley, and today this is my project on income inequality between the genders. What I am going to attempt to do in this presentation is to take a look at the gender pay gap and to try to determine if, in fact, that it is due to inherited facets of identity, as our textbook says, or if it can be more seen as an idea that comes from personal choices and decisions made in one's life. At one point or another, all of us have heard the argument that men simply make more money for the same work that women do. Meaning that if two people have the same exact position with the same exact experience, that men are just simply going to get paid more. We have heard the statistics, and most recently in 2015, women made 79 cents out of every $1 that a man made. Now, this statistic is used by many people who try to argue that rampant sexism is making women victims and that they only make 79 cents for every $1 that a man makes. I'm sure you have heard this statistic at some point in your life. It is largely reported by the media, politicians, and various groups such as the AAUW. And to really try to understand what it is that they're saying, you really have to understand how they got this number. Essentially, they added up the earnings of all men in the country and all women in the country, and then they found a median of the two. So for me, when it comes to using statistics to prove a point, that's not really the best way to do so. That's essentially like taking two groups, adding up their income and finding an average, and then claiming that one of them has been oppressed because they make less. It does not take into account personal decisions, choices, and different things that one does throughout their life. So why is this significant, and why is this a problem when it comes to diversity? Essentially, right now, we have two groups of people. On one side, we have a group that assumes that because sexism does exist in the world, that it is responsible for this wage gap, and that it is a fact that corporations and businesses alike across the country are oppressing women by paying them less than men for the same work. And then on the other side, you have people like myself who believe that this wage gap is largely due to personal decisions made by women throughout their life in regards to education and family, and how these decisions ultimately influence their career and ultimately their pay. The idea behind this argument is a problem because it ultimately calls for government intervention and the regulation of wages to the point where it will suppress the contributions of an individual in the workplace and place their significance more on the emphasis of their gender and not what they can bring to the company. And second, it has created a generation that believes that they are victims because of sexism oppressing their wages. A recent study released by Forbes magazine showed that a majority of women attending Harvard University overwhelmingly believed that once they graduated, that they would automatically take a 22-cent pay cut compared to their male counterparts. So with this gender pay gap, people have tended to confuse the term inequality with inequity. Inequality meaning just simply a difference in size or amount, and inequity meaning a lack of fairness or justice. Essentially what you have are people using this 79 cent on every dollar pay gap to express the idea that inequity has occurred or a lack of fairness has occurred in the workplace, oppressing women and the wages that they make. Christina Hoff Sommers is a world-renowned feminist who has been outspoken about this gender wage gap. She states the same thing that I am saying in this presentation, that this idea of a gender pay gap creates a society in which women feel like they are victimized and can never reach their full potential. She critiques this idea that women make 79 cents out of every dollar, bringing to light the fact that it does not account for differences in occupations, positions, job tenure, or hours worked per week. She says that when such factors are considered, the wage gap narrows to the point of vanishing. What I am going to attempt to do in this presentation is to examine what Christina Hoff Sommers says leads to this pay gap in regards to education and personal choices made by women in regards to their career and their families. I will then show evidence that suggests that women are actually outperforming men in certain fields in an attempt to prove that sexism is not dominating the workplace and that sexism is not oppressing women based on the wages that they earn. When it comes to education, I would assume that we would all agree that the major that you choose in college plays a large role in determining how much money you will make in the workplace. For instance, if you pick a major such as engineering, you will probably make more money than someone who chose a major in social work. This is true regardless of gender. Anthony Carnevale of Georgetown University found that women on average choose majors that lead to lower paying careers, while men pick majors that lead to higher paying careers. The following graphic shows the top 10 most lucrative majors that you can enroll in college, showing a relatively low presence of women being enrolled in them. This would lead to women making less money because these majors that generally lead to higher paying jobs do not have a lot of women enrolled in them. Now, if we look at a chart of the top 10 least lucrative majors, we can see that clearly women dominate men in these majors. This would in fact lead to women picking jobs and majors in school that lead to lower pay than the ones that men choose. This does not illustrate a clear picture of sexism and does not show that women are being oppressed. If you had two groups of people and one of them studied engineering and one of them studied social work, odds are that those that studied engineering are probably going to make more money. Now, in addition to education, we can also look at how women operate in the family. Historically, women have stayed home with children and men have gone out to pursue full-time work. This has been changing over time as both partners in a family are tending to go out and earn money for the family. However, from a historical context, we can see that over 40% of women choose to leave their career behind and stay home with their children. So far, what we have done is we have taken a look at this statistic that women earn on average 77% of what men make, and the fact that rampant sexism is now controlling wages in the United States today.
Women make up about half our workforce, but they still make 77 cents for every dollar a man earns. That is wrong. And in 2014, it's an embarrassment.
Okay, a bar in Brooklyn's charging women just 77% of their bar bills all night to highlight the wage gap between working men and women. And as Matt King found out, it's a pretty big hit.
More specifically, I spoke about making sure our economy rewards the hard work of women. On average, a woman still earns just 77 cents for every dollar a man does.
Earlier, I mentioned renowned feminist Christina Hoff Sommers. Let's weigh in on what she has to say about this 77-cent gender pay gap.
Consider the issue of the so-called gender wage gap. How many times have you heard that for the same work, women receive 77 cents for every dollar a man earns? This charge is constantly repeated by feminist activists and their supporters. Yet it is so deeply misleading as to border on outright falsehood. 23-cent gender pay gap is simply the difference between the average earnings of all men and women working full-time. It does not take account for differences in occupations, positions, education, job tenure, or hours worked per week.
Whether or not you believe that sexism is keeping women's wages suppressed, you have to look at the facts. Currently, we have a statistic that women earn 77 cents for every dollar that a man makes. Another fact is that this statistic is being used as a victim statistic in our country. It is making women truly believe that they are going to graduate from college and earn less than a man simply because they are a woman. This is a problem for me because it does not accurately represent the idea of what feminism is. Feminism at its core is equality between men and women in all aspects of life, which I am totally for, totally 100% in support of. I say that this does not accurately represent feminism because what it leads to are laws that mandate extra work be put into determining that females and males are paid equally in the workplace. This undermines the root idea of feminism that says that all men and women are equal. When you bring these types of regulations into it, what it does is it actually can inflate wages for people of lesser skill, regardless of gender.
The women who go around today urging equal pay for equal work are being anti-feminist. Because if there is any activity in which, for any reason, a male is preferable to a female, or vice versa, the only weapon the less productive sex has is to offer to work for less. And if you deny them that opportunity, you're assuring yourself that you're going to have all male jobs or all female jobs, all white jobs or all black jobs. I'm saying that the actual effect of requiring equal pay for equal work will be to harm women. But by misunderstanding, when you try to get equal pay for equal work laws, is what you are doing is reducing to zero the cost imposed on people who are discriminating for irrelevant reasons.
I am not saying that laws should not be in place to safeguard sexism in the workplace. In fact, we already have laws like that. The Equal Pay Act in 1963 literally prohibits any employer from paying an employee at wage rates less than the rates paid to employees of the opposite sex in the same establishment for equal work on jobs that require equal skill, effort, or responsibility. What I am opposed to, however, is this new bill that has recently been passed in California called SB 358, Conditions of Employment. It literally states that this bill would revise and recast the exceptions to require the employer to affirmatively demonstrate that a wage differential is based upon one or more specified factors, including a seniority system, a merit system, or a system that measures earnings by quantity or quality of production, or a bona fide factor other than sex as specified. Now, it also says that the bill would also require the employer to demonstrate that each factor relied upon is applied reasonably and that one or more factors relied upon account for the entire differential. The bill would also increase the duration of employer record-keeping requirements from 2 years to 3 years. Essentially, what this means is that corporations and private businesses are going to have to literally prove why they are paying men more than women or why they are paying women more than men. They're going to have to put together reports and turn them over to the state in an effort to make sure that equal pay for equal work is achieved. I object to this because this passes on unnecessary costs to the American taxpayer because provisions in this bill allow businesses to be reimbursed by the state for any costs associated with this new program. Before I move on to my next point, I would like to summarize quickly what we have already gone over. We have shown that the 77 cent on every dollar statistic comparing men's and women's wages is actually misleading because it does not take into account choices made in regards to education and the family. We have gone over how women on average choose college majors that do lead to lower paying careers, and that men on average choose majors that lead to higher paying careers. We have also shown that women on average tend to leave their career behind to pursue having a family. This is not sexist. Women are the only ones who are able to have children. One question, however, that I would like to pose is who are these sexist corporations? Who are these businesses that are tending to pay women 23 cents less than men, and why are they doing it?
Women in the United States and in Western Europe are the freest and most liberated in human history. In many ways, they are not merely doing as well as men, they are doing better.
A new study reported by multiple media outlets by Press Association has shown that younger women are actually making more than their male counterparts in large cities. Now, why is this happening? It is true that women are actually waiting longer to have kids, so they are pursuing a career and going into jobs that pay more money, and it's working. They are typically earning $1,111 more per year than their male counterparts.
1 in 5, approximately, women in marriages are making more than their spouses. It's 4 times greater than it was in the 60s. And if you factor in single moms who are the sole providers for their families, it's actually 40% of women are breadwinners in this country. So it's the new reality. Okay.
Another area where a common misconception of women earning less money than men is at the top of companies in the CEO position. Now, this graphic points out that there aren't a lot of them, but the women CEOs that are there are out earning men. On average, we can see that women CEOs earn $22.7 million compared with just $14.9 million on average for men. Now, I bring these things up because I wanted to point out areas where women are actually outperforming men and undermining the statistic of the 77 cents on every dollar earned. I hope that this has been an attempt to prove that teaching women that they are victims in a society that is oppressing them due to their gender is not right. Moving forward, if we are to achieve true equality, this divisiveness does not have a place in the conversation. What we need to do is value each other's contributions to society and pay people based on the value of that work. I have found and I have experienced that this is the best way to truly reward people for their hard work and to move forward as a progressive society. In closing, I'd like to thank you for watching this presentation, and I wish you all the best.